30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Good morning again. This is Jonathan Small, host and producer of Face to Face. And Face to Face is one of two different talk shows that I have the pleasure of broadcasting every single week at AccessTV.org studios. Face to Face is a show that's designed to ask the guests the hard questions and give you, the viewers, the answers and information that you deserve to know. This morning, we have the pleasure of having a returning guest who was on Morning Talk Live with J. Stam McCauley Talk Show on two different occasions, and now having the pleasure of having this guest as the first guest for 2024, and also the pleasure of having this guest on Face to Face. The guest is no other than real estate agent, broker for the Dalton Wade Real Estate Group, located in the greater Tampa, Florida area, no other than Mike LaVoy. Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
Really well, Jonathan. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Was that the correct title that I mentioned, the Dalton Wade Real Estate Group? I just want to be correct.
Yep.
Okay, just want to make
Correct.
sure.
Dalton Wade Real Estate.
Okay. Mike, before we get into our main topics of this discussion, could you kind of let people know a little bit about yourself and background briefly?
Sure. I've been a Florida resident since 1982, give or take. Had a business prior to that, and I sold that in 2007. In 2009, I got bored and I went into real estate. Been there ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Came from Michigan, moved here from Michigan in '82. I have 3 kids of my own, 3 kids of my wife's, so we're pretty busy.
Sound like the Brady Bunch. Was that 3 and 3? I think it was 3 and 3. Okay, she brought 3.
We just don't have a house cleaner, and I'm working on that.
Okay, yes, I remember that. Mike, Tampa is one of the fastest growing cities or the fastest growing metro areas in the United States. It has a tremendous amount of attractions, world-class amenities, successful developments that's been ongoing. Is this an accurate barometer again of the city of Tampa?
Yeah, oh yeah. It is. The population around here has just ballooned, especially over the last 4 or 5 years. Basically, since COVID started, we really started growing.
Mm-hmm.
There are developments, new businesses going all over the place, new things to see. It's just a very dynamic place to live. I don't think I could come up with anything place better than right here in Tampa Bay.
What kind of makes Tampa unique, though? When you look at Florida, you have Miami, you have Orlando. What kind of makes Tampa a unique place?
Diversity. I mean, you've got everything from the beaches, which are 40 minutes away, half hour away, some of the best beaches in the country. You can go up and do the waterboat thing up in the swamps up in north part of town. You can go to Busch Gardens or Adventure Island or any of those guys. There are just a unique amount of places to go and see, within maybe 30 minutes of my place, where I live.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, whatever you want to do. We got Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is, your hit and miss. The Lightning, the Yankees come down here for spring practice. It's just a lot of stuff going on.
Mm-hmm. Is Tampa, in your opinion, going to continue to grow throughout the remaining decade from what you're seeing projected?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're expecting the population to get, they're looking at another 20% over the next 10 years is what I've heard. I don't know where they're going to put them, but we keep getting more houses and more developments going up, so they got to be going somewhere.
Mike, is there a big difference between Tampa and St. Petersburg, and is the two cities kind of competing, or they kind of complement each other?
It used to be that St. Pete was referred to as God's waiting room,
Mm-hmm.
But it's really changed. St. Pete has become a really neat city, a lot of restaurants down on the water, down in the bay. My wife and I were down there last weekend, 2 weekends ago for brunch, sat out there, really nice restaurant on the water. That's the kind of place it's come to.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa is more, I guess, more business oriented. It's more of the worker people still down here. The people working at whatever business, but it's more. It's not as relaxed or as laid back or as I want to say vacationy as St. Pete is.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't really compete. They used to compete a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Going over the bridge to get to St. Pete used to be a real issue, but it's not anymore. It's just, they work together for the most part.
All right.
Except for the Rays, we're still arguing about whether the Rays are going to be here or there. So
Yeah. I'm a Red Sox fan, so I think the Rays have our number over the past couple of years. We used to have their number. Let's get some hard questions out in the open. Can anybody afford to live in Tampa? Is Tampa becoming too expensive in the city limits for the average working class people, or is Tampa kind of a balance housing economic structure? Break down Tampa now. If you're looking to look at Tampa as a destination, you're trying to sell real estate to people throughout the country, Mike. How much money do you really need to get a good housing stock in the city of Tampa?
in the city limits, you're going to need probably at least $500,000, probably closer to $700,000 as a house. Inside the city limits, it's gotten so populated that there's not much property left to buy. There are some individual builders on there putting up houses in what used to be a pretty rundown part of town. They are coming back, especially on the west side of Tampa, West Tampa. That's a little community that's been around since, the 20s. And a lot of the houses down there were built in the 20s and 30s. So you've got developers going there and putting up houses, but they're still $600,000, $700,000 houses. If you go out east of town, stay within the limits. There are some places out east of town that you can get in for probably $350,000, maybe $400,000. But it's going to be a remodel. You're going to do some work to it. South Tampa, you can't buy a lot in South Tampa for less than $500,000.
Right. Oh boy.
So it's just kind of hit and miss on where you go. If you're at by Twin Lakes, you could probably get in around Twin Lakes for $400,000, give or take. West Shore, no way. That's $1 million deal at West Shore.
So Tampa's like a microscope of many major or mid-sized cities, or just cities in general, that because there's so many things to do, there's so much interest, so much attraction, it's like a magnet. It's going to automatically bump up the real estate and the housing costs. The further you get away, what many people say is where you're better off towards getting cheaper housing, less expensive housing. But the trade-off would be it's very little to see, it's very little to do. You may not have the necessary goods and services that you need on a consistent basis. Wouldn't the trade-off be, let's say, a new Tampa? I think it's a new district they call it Tampa, or some Walton district. You can kind of break it down. That let's just say a new Tampa district area. You're about, what, 20 to 25 minutes outside of the city, but you have a complete developed community and many things to do, similar to what you would have in Tampa. Those are your better options right now to look 15 to 30 minutes outside of Tampa for select cities and towns that kind of can assemble a little bit what you have in Tampa?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, most major metropolitan areas are going to be like that. The closer you are to the center of the city, the more expensive they are. The farther you get away, the less expensive they're going to be. And depending how far you want to go, is kind of dictate on how much you're going to spend. There are subdivisions that are 20 minutes north of Tampa. One of them is called Wesley Chapel.
That's the one, right?
Wesley Chapel used to be, when I moved here, there was one exit for Wesley Chapel, and it was a very small town. The last 4 years, that area has just, it's blossomed, it's bloomed. There are now there's 3 exits off I-75 for that town. But Wesley Chapel is a city. It's not really a city. It's not an incorporated city, but it's an area that has all the shopping and entertainment and dining places or restaurants and whatever you want to do. There's an ice skating rink out there. There's all kinds of car dealerships out there. There's it's all really built up around the population that's just moved in out there. And it's become a very popular place to live. It is about 20 minutes north of Tampa. So if you want to go to a Rays game, or you want to go to the Bucks game or the Performing Arts Center downtown, you're going to have to drive downtown for 20 minutes or so. Outside of those few, venues, if you can't find that Wesley Chapel, it's not downtown Tampa either.
Right.
And then you get into farther out, you've got Dade City or Brooksville, Spring Hill. You can still get into Spring Hill for less than $500,000 in a very nice house in the Spring Hill area. I was out looking with a lady a couple of days ago, just before the new year. And there are, like Talavera is a very nice subdivision. It's 25, maybe 30 minutes north of downtown Tampa. There is less things to do in Spring Hill than there are in Wesley Chapel, because it's just not built up as much anymore. It will be, but you're looking probably 5 years down the road before you have the same kind of amenities that you would in a Wesley Chapel.
Yeah, in Wesley Chapel, that was the area that I was thinking about, that you talked about.
That is probably one of the most, on my YouTube channel, that is probably one of the most sought after videos, is what's going on in Wesley Chapel.
So now, again, I don't know if I got a direct answer, but how much money on an income level do you really need to have to sustain, let's say, a good standard of living? I'm not talking about a rich luxury lifestyle, right, but let's say a decent home, decent rental apartment, decent condo, townhome. Are we talking closer to 6 figures? Are we talking closer to 50,000? What's the current breakdown of how much economic finance would you really need in Tampa or the greater
household
Tampa?
income? You're probably going to need $80,000 to $85,000 to have you're not going to be going out for dinner at Burns every night, but you can definitely live comfortably at $85,000 in the Tampa. You're not going to have, you're going to have a townhome, an apartment, although apartments right now are about $2,500 a month. But you could, at $85,000 a year, you can afford to buy a house. You can live nicely, and have a really nice life and have a really nice lifestyle.
Is the economy and the job market kind of supplementing that $85,000 in the greater Tampa, Florida area?
It is. I mean, you've got Tampa. Florida's always been kind of a service-oriented economy with the tourism. A lot of people are in the service industry and the entertainment industry. The jobs are becoming better paying, because we're getting into more of a technical, what do I want to say, like a computer-oriented or technology-oriented economy. The tourism is here. There's no doubt about it. But you've also got Jabil Circuits and Tech Data and what's the other one down there? In Ybor is another company that are hiring, higher paid position or have higher paid positions that are helping out the economy quite a bit.
Okay. So is people hear the reports that so many people are moving to Florida? They are looking at Florida as not just from one segment of the country. The Northeast and the Midwest is probably going to get your heavy load to go along with California. Are people starting to now move out of Florida? Is Florida becoming too expensive? Is there any certain issues that's kind of turning people off that are currently living in Florida or have moved to Florida? What's the whole breakdown on the people that's, let's say, could be leaving or thinking about leaving the state of Florida?
Well, you've got a couple of major issues. Expense is one of them. If you come down here, a lot of people move to Florida for retirees, or 55 and plus, 55 and over, are moving into retirement communities. They are finding the expenses are not getting higher. Well, they are getting higher, but you've got taxes are going up, insurance going up, the whole ball of wax. But those people are more stable because they've got the money. They're on a retirement benefit. A lot of them continue to work. They come down here and they've got a pension from some business up north, and they come down here and work and make $50,000 a year, and they're here for good.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a lot of younger people that came down here that don't have a decent job, or they came down hoping to find a job that would be able to support them. That's not that they're not here; they're just hard to find because you've got 1,000 people a day moving down here. Job market is tight.
Right.
You've got a lot of people that are really getting hurt are the people that have lived here for years, like me. They've got, they live in a house that's probably they bought 30 years ago. That's, is now worth, $150,000 more than what they paid for it. But their HOA fees and their insurance fees and all that cost is going up. So you've got a group of those people moving up to North Carolina or South Carolina, or they're called halfbacks.
Mm-hmm.
You've got that group of people that just can't afford to live here anymore, and it's not getting any cheaper down here. Insurance is a major issue.
Mm-hmm.
Taxes are decent, but you got insurance. The other issue you have is politics. I've got people that are moving out of town, out of the state, because they don't like politics, and that's just what they got to face. They're looking at. You've got a lot of people moving into town because of the politics. So it's kind of a mixed batch of people that are moving out, I guess is what you're going to say.
Well, did the pandemic, I believe the governor kind of kept the state of Florida open. Was that I don't want to put you on the spot, but was that a good move or was that a questionable move when he kind of kept Florida open? He didn't really restrict too heavily on the businesses that would kind of have to shut down or close, or state government. So was that a benefit to Florida? Did Florida carry the storm through the pandemic? How did Florida seem to weather that pandemic 2 to 3 year storm?
I guess it's kind of your point of view. For me, yes, it was a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to go out and get groceries without having to be, worried about it. It was very nice to be able to get out and do things. A lot of people were moving in from out of states, moving into this state from out of state, from places, New York or California or Michigan. A lot of those guys, because they didn't want to have to deal with the closed down businesses, and they didn't want the restrictions.
Mm.
I guess it's for me it was great.
Right.
Because I didn't have the issues that my son lives in Colorado. A lot of issues out there.
Mm-hmm. So now let's just say, because you said $85,000 is the medium household income that you kind of would want to gauge towards to have, let's say, a good, decent standard of living. We're not talking about, a $500,000 to $1 million home. You mentioned a townhome. Hopefully the rent would be under $2,000, but let's just say, and you're an expert in this category. I guess you know what you get for $1,000. You know what you get for $1,500. You know what you get for $2,000. So if you break $85,000 between a medium household income, How is that really gonna be beneficial to Florida having a low minimum wage, low wage workers, low wage occupation? Where are these people living? How are these people functioning in the state of Florida? Is that contributing to homelessness and other social unrest in Florida?
Well, on about social unrest and homelessness, it does go on here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're at minimum wage, 15, $18 an hour, it is not pretty.
Mm.
You're going to be living in an apartment that is going to be $1,500, $2,000 a month minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got gas, electricity, and everything else to go on top of that. So minimum wage, it's not, it's not the best part of time, best time in the world to be in Florida. It's changed a lot over the last 10 years. And it used to be that Florida was thought as a very cheap place to live,
Mm-hmm.
and it was. You would come down here and buy a house for $150,000, $200,000 almost anywhere in the county.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't do that anymore. It's got the price of housing is not kept up with the price of, or wages have not kept up with the price of housing. And you've got some people that are, minimum wage that are just not going to be able to make it.
Well, isn't by Florida being a tourist economy, you're going to always have a low wage sector job structure? I mean, you can go to Disney World and have a ton of tourism related jobs, but I hear reports that those are not really stable jobs, or they're not really high beneficial upward mobility jobs. You can't, again, keep up with the cost of housing, the cost of other expenses. Or is Florida changing more like a diverse economy where the tourism is not the only solely relied economic structure that exists in Florida, and you have to be more selective in the type of economic groups that you seek towards employment and to do business in?
Florida will always be a major tourism destination. You're just not going to get away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Those people, I'm sure, like I mentioned, the people who work at Disney, I don't know for a fact, but I would bet the majority of those people do not make $80,000 a year.
Right.
I will bet that the people that work at Busch Gardens do not make $80,000 a year. You're going to have those people around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Florida has diversified and has become, we don't have any major manufacturing center. We're not Detroit. We don't have an automobile industry here. We don't have that kind of stuff. We do have a great financial industry. That's really taken off the last 3 or 4 years. But we don't have a major industrial area.
Mm.
You've got the orange groves are still out there. They're still making oranges, but those people aren't making, any kind of money. I can't imagine. Florida, especially around the Tampa area, has really picked up a lot of industry that does pay a better wage, but you've got to have, some kind of education or trade. We do a lot of stuff around here for trades.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are making some money. Trade workers around here, electricians, plumbers, framers, all those guys. Those guys are making some money. So it has diversified over the last 5 or 6 years a lot more than what it was when I moved here, which was, primarily orange groves and tourism.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you have so many businesses and people moving into Florida, I mean, how does that really impact towards a benefit? I mean, I guess there's many ways it can benefit the state of Florida. But if you have new people moving in, like you mentioned, on a daily basis, so many businesses moving, and also people hear the reports that the tax structure in Florida is very favorable. You have no state income tax. You have less restrictions, I think, on business taxes, and you may not have a car sales tax. But then people say you get hit with other hidden costs, gratuity taxes, hotel taxes, what it costs to park in certain parts of Florida, maybe South Florida. Does it balance out that even though you might be saving money on one tax structure, you're still going to be paying in another area? Or is Florida a great state that you can keep more of your money in your pocket?
Well, I think that kind of depends on where you're coming from.
Mm.
If you're coming from Iowa or Idaho or Missouri, it's probably going to be in the end of the deal is probably going to be the same or a little bit higher.
Mm.
If you're coming from Michigan, New York, California, New Jersey, any of those upper states, high tax states, you're going to save a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean a lot. It's going to be relative to how much your income is. I've had people come down here from New York and look at their tax bill down here, the real estate tax bill, and they flat out said, Mike, we're saving $24,000 a year just in real estate taxes.
Mm.
So, the real estate taxes, it's going to be kind of dependent upon where you're coming from. No, we do not have a state income tax, which is beneficial for retirees. We don't tax your retirement income. We don't tax military income. So that portion of it is really nice. We do have a state sales tax. I think it's 6 or 6.5%. And depending on where you live, I think out here in Hillsborough County it's 7%.
Mm.
So it kind of varies, but I think the base is 6.5%. Sales tax is going to be there. The resort taxes, if you go over to the beach, spend a weekend in a condo, we don't get a break because we're Florida residents on the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
They're there. But really, if I'm going to go out for a weekend, I'm not going to go to the beach. Hey, I don't like the beach that much. I'm going to go out of the state. A 4-day weekend for me is out of the state somewhere. I live here. I can see the beach anytime I want to.
Mm-hmm.
Other taxes you're going to have are going to be real estate, property taxes. They're always going to go up. So it kind of depends on, if you're saving money, you're not saving money, if it's beneficial to you in Florida or not. It's probably going to depend upon a lot of where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. So again, if you're coming from New York and you're bringing in, let's say, a heavy pension, you have a home in New York that might be $1 million, and you could sell your home in New York for $1 million, and you want to downsize, and you're looking at Florida, and you want to spend, let's say, $500,000 and keep another $500,000 in your pocket, give or take. That would be real favorable for people on that level to look at Florida. If you are, let's say, $15 or $20 an hour worker in New York, or you used to making $20 to $25 an hour, and you want to do the same type of occupation, Florida might not be the right fit because your wage level is definitely going to drop tremendously from $25 an hour probably to around minimum wage. So it's a select group of people, and I know it's high numbers, Mike, but it's still a select group of people that's really benefiting from many of the assets that Florida have. Or is Florida still changing where you can still get something out of the state even on the lower socioeconomic scale?
I don't think you're going to get much out of the state. If you're at a minimum wage in Michigan or New York,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably going to be minimum wage here, and the cost of living here is, going to be less than New York, but not that much less anymore.
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago it was. If you're coming down here and you're making $25-30 an hour up there, you can probably expect a decrease in your pay. I don't think it's going to be substantial, especially if you have a trade or you have some kind of experience
Mm-hmm.
in what you're doing. If you're coming down here to become an accountant and you never dealt with numbers before, you're going to have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But it's coming down here at minimum wage is probably not going to be the best decision on the planet.
Mm-hmm. So you got to do your homework. If you're looking at Florida, I mean, for people, even if people are just going down there, for a couple of months, you have a lot of young people who are attracted to South Florida. They want to get away from the winter time. And I just had a friend that recently took a vacation to Florida, and he came back up here and he was broke. I mean, he just couldn't believe how much money he had to spend. And he had to sell his vehicle. I mean, it was just a sticker shock. It's so
you can spend $10,000 going to Disneyland for a weekend. I mean, it's not that difficult to do.
Okay. So
it's if you're talking about moving to Miami, Naples, Sarasota, you better have some money to go with you because it's not cheap in those cities. At least Tampa is still reasonably, when you compare it to the other cities around the state, Tampa is still pretty reasonable. And if you get farther north out of Tampa up towards, I don't know, Ocala, it becomes very reasonable up there. You're just not next to the beach.
Right. So if you're coming down, let's say you want to come down for a vacation in the wintertime, you want to get away, from Minnesota where it's extremely cold. I got a friend that lives in Minneapolis area, one of the coldest places in the country, and you want to get away for the wintertime, 3 to 4 months. How much money would you be looking to spend for, let's say, temporary housing, like, vacation homes? I mean, how does that cost fit into the equation?
Well, if you want to be on the beach, you better be planning on spending maybe $5,000 or $6,000 a month just on living there.
Mm-hmm.
If you get away from the beach, a couple blocks, the rate's going to drop to probably $3,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to depend on what size of house. It really is dependent upon how close you are to the beach. If you get an Airbnb in Tampa, you're looking at maybe $2,000 a month, $2,500 a month for to live there, for rent.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you spend, whatever you're spending.
Between buying food, putting gas in your car, just basic necessities. If you need something, if you want to go out to eat for the weekend. So
Yep.
The misconception might be for some people that Florida is the Gold Coast and it's very luxury standard of living. But there's a tremendous price tag that comes with what it costs to really live a good life and enjoy the benefits that Florida has to offer.
Sure. It is not a place for, if you want to live cheap, it's going to be difficult.
To do that. But again, the numbers, that's still not keeping people from not looking at Florida. So what is the makeup, again, of the people? I guess you have all different classifications of people that are moving: retirees, people that want to sell their homes, people that want to come out of college, maybe young people. So there's no one particular group of people that's really drawing the high numbers, or is there a certain group that's continuing to draw the high numbers, like retirees, senior citizens with health issues? So how does the makeup of the people that are really moving to Florida calculate towards?
Well, it's changed. It used to be that most of them were retirees. We're getting a lot of Gen Zers come down here with, working down here looking at jobs. A lot of Gen Zers and younger people are coming into the state, which is really kind of nice. But the makeup it's pretty well diverse upon the spectrum of age rate, their ages. A lot of them are still retirees. I mean, we still have a lot of retirees coming down here.
Mm-hmm.
But the makeup has changed a little bit, where there are some millennials and Gen Zers that are coming into town, especially in Tampa. I would imagine in Miami is going to be the same way. Miami's not much of a retirement town anymore. It's just too expensive for that.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got a lot of people in the Tampa area that are coming in that are younger, that are, the 30s or younger, that are making a good living down here and having fun. They come down here for the lifestyle. We don't push much snow, a lot less than they do in Minneapolis. And they come down here for a more relaxed lifestyle, a little bit less pressure, and sun 360 days of the year.
Well, Mike, is it easier to make the transition comparable than when you came in 1982 than it is today? Now, you have technology, you have so many things, you can communicate with people throughout the country. So if you're leaving another part of the country and you're moving to Florida or Tampa, you can still stay connected because of technology, cell phones, things that didn't really exist in 1982. But the trade-off would be it's just going to cost you a lot more money to really make this transition today in the 2020s than it were in the than the 80s. Is that fair to say?
It definitely will. I bought my first house in Tampa in '85. I think I paid $179,000 for it. A 4-bedroom, 2-bath house on a cul-de-sac with a pool. I think it was $179,000. I like to move out of this neighborhood into a 55 plus neighborhood. And, we're looking at $600,000 minimum for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. So, the cost of moving down here is a lot more than what it was back then. the technology is better because you can research and do your backroom stuff on the telephone or on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Back in '82, you just packed up your truck and left.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's changed a lot in 34, 35 years. It's got a lot easier to move because I can, apply for a job down here, and actually have a business, have something to go to work in down here, as opposed to '82, you couldn't do that.
Right. Now, Mike, Tampa's like a mid-sized city. It's not a 500,000. I like to classify a large city between a 500,000 population and up. Tampa's are what, in the 300,000, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, 300,000 to 400,000. It's not a major city. The city itself is very small.
Right. Is Tampa like a model city that some cities could look at? I mean, or is Tampa has its own identity? Like Tampa's in the same population base, let's say, as a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but that's a totally different type of city. That's a steel, or used to be a steel industry city. Is Tampa like a model city that other cities can kind of learn from, or Tampa just kind of built and developed on its own identity level?
I would hope to think we could be a model for other cities. It is different than other cities. We're different than Orlando, and we're only an hour and a half away, hour and 15 minutes away. It is a unique city. It is a younger city compared to some others. It is a changing city. It changes all the time. There's some new, new venue or a new restaurant or a new whatever going up all the time. It is an exciting city to live in. We've got a lot of stuff going on. It could be a model. Yeah, I'd go with that.
All right. Well, this new water development street or development business that Tampa has implemented over the past couple of years, it looks exciting. It looks like it's new. It looks like it's well developed and well planned. But again, does that automatically bump up what it will cost now to live in Tampa just by having a new Water Street development district?
Well, yeah, the Water Street district is it's not cheap to live in. I don't believe there's any houses down there. There are some condos. Most of them are apartments, and those apartments, depending on where they go, how high you want to go, they're running the $8,000-$10,000 a month for rent. Water Street is very neat. It is new. I think it's like 2 or 3 years old. Jeff Binnick, and a group of investors went down and turned to what was Channel Side into Water Street, and just basically redid the whole area. There is a walkway, it's a pathway, it's a 12-foot long or 12-foot wide concrete sidewalk that starts basically in Water Street and runs all the way up to Eulalie's restaurant. Goes along the river. It's a very neat place to walk. There are, I don't know how many dozens of restaurants along the way. There's museums. There's all kinds of things to do down there. But that does, because it's popular. Everybody likes to go down there and walk around. So it makes things down there a lot more expensive. Housing is just one of them.
And again, Tampa's not a city that you can see everything in one day. It's like a New York or Boston. You got to really have a weekend because there's so many different things to do, from the waterfronts, the riverfront, the beaches, the amusements, even if you get outside of Tampa. So it's really a vacation destination. It's not a city that you're going to get a good feel just by coming in one day. And you need is Tampa, what I'm really saying is Tampa kind of on the level of a Boston or New York in some areas, in your opinion?
Yes. Boston, yes. New York, I've only been to New York one time, so I really can't speak for New York. But I can imagine that, if you can't find something to do in New York, it's just because you're not trying. Probably the same thing with Boston. Tampa is the same way. If you're bored, it's because you're not outside doing something. Golfing or swimming or going down to Water Street, getting something to eat, going to the Straz for a performance. They had Trans-Siberian Orchestra was down there yesterday or a couple days ago. They have some big name things going down there. There's, I don't know, there's 5 or 6 different venues like that around town. Concerts over at the amphitheater. If you can't find something to do, it's because you're just not trying to do it. And really, I've been here for 34 years or something. I have only been down to Water Street 3 or 4 times, and I haven't hit any of the good restaurants. I just go to the bourbon tasting place. I like to taste bourbon.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple of restaurants down there we go to. But really, there must be, just on Water Street, the main part of Water Street, there's got to be 20 restaurants down there. You just can't get to them all, and especially the day.
So, Mike, as we're kind of ending up this particular segment, what are some of the biggest concerns, and what is some of the biggest optimism that you have about the growth of Tampa, Greater Tampa, and the state of Florida?
Well, concerns would be there's just the amount of growth going on and the controlling of that growth. I'm not sure. I don't want to be saying this in the public, so I'll probably get beat up for it.
Right.
But I'm not sure our county commissioners are planning that far ahead. It seems to be we are approving construction projects, or residential construction projects, without the infrastructure being put in. A lot of our streets are just packed, and I realize that if you're coming from New York, you're coming from Chicago, getting from point A to B up there could be a half an hour, and you're going 2 miles. It's not that bad here. I mean, it really is. The traffic is not that bad if you're coming in from a major metropolitan area. If you lived here for a while and you can see the traffic issues, it's bad. It's gotten worse. I'm not sure we're building the streets or the rail system, if we'd ever get one, quite fast enough to keep up with the population growth. So the infrastructure is an issue.
Right.
As far as optimism, I'm looking forward to it. I get a lot of people that tell me that are been residents here forever, maybe were born here. I'm so sick of the growth. It's overpopulated. We're just running downhill. Blah 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 blah. If you've got to embrace it. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. So the next 10 years, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Tampa does grow, and the things that the area does gain. I'm really excited about being here.
Right. That's kind of a good way to end the show, Mike. You have some concerns, but you're very optimistic in some areas overall, because you wouldn't even be there for this length of time. And you see some good and great things still upcoming, as you mentioned during the program, with the continued population growth. You see businesses popping up all over the place. You love Tampa. You think Tampa is a better area than South Florida. Some people will debate you on that, but I think the numbers kind of do speak for themselves. And again, you were very accurate and very sharp. This was kind of a very straightforward, direct type of interview, and I appreciate you being able to respond in the way that you have. And is there any last things or words you would like for people to know about yourself, your business, or what you're currently working on? Feel free to do so.
Well, last words would be, if you're looking for real estate, give me a call. There are projects and developments going up all over town. It's just really kind of neat to see all the growth.
Right.
Really, that's about it.
All right, well, those words are going to have to be well taken, Mike. Again, you're very sharp, as I just mentioned, very accurate. I knew you would know what to talk about, so I had no problem interviewing you for this particular segment. And I definitely wish I keep an eye on some of your work every now and then, and let's just continue to move forward in 2024.
I appreciate it, Jonathan. It was good to see you again.
Good to see you too as well, Mike.
Take care.
You too. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, this is Jonathan Small. I had enjoyed this segment of Face to Face with a returning guest who we had the privilege of interviewing on Morning Talk Live with Jay Stan McCauley Talk Show a couple years ago, and had the pleasure this morning of interviewing him for the first show of Face to Face, and the first show technically for me for 2024. And you know what I say every single week, I like to keep it balanced. So there's a very strong chance that next week's show is going to be All About You, biographical show. But as I would also always say, if a hot topic comes up and I got to talk about it, it's going to be a back-to-back, face-to-face. But until I see you again, for people out there, have a very blessed day and keep the faith. Thank you. We're clear. Okay.